Is local live music dying? I think it is a little bit. And is it going to get worse? I think so. I'm going to go over the reasons why. I was at a music event recently with some of my friends, and I met up with some veteran friends that have been in cover bands and bands for years, and they were talking about how there's a huge decline in live music in the area and what they thought the causes were. Now, a lot of times what older musicians would like to say is that it's the younger generation. But what it is mostly is things are always changing and things are always going different directions. Now, here are some of the reasons I think there's been a decline in local live music and why some venues stop doing bands and some venues actually are starting to close down. Next time you're out at a music gig, take a look at the age diversity of the group that's out there. A lot of times when I go, I'm one of the younger people out there, and I'm in my 40s. Now, you'll be hard-pressed to see somebody that's 21 or even up into their 30s out. And the reason is I think that generation just doesn't consume music the same way. Now, I'm not blaming the younger generation. It's just a product of what they have in their environment. Because think about in the 80s and the 70s when everybody was packing bars and they were going out to see live bands. With everything being available to people at home, the younger generation is obviously feeding off of that. And now that's why I would say mumble rapping and rappers in general are a bigger thing. Because you can do that from home with a laptop. And we have such good equipment now that you can use just microphones from your house, record. You can run your own beats. You can do your own drum machines. You can also have bass filled in, and you don't even have to learn how to play these instruments. Because of that, I think they're identifying more with people that are in that same vein. So they're not excited to go see the guitar rock god, and they're not excited to see that singer that blows you off the stage, because that's just not what they're about right now. Another thing that I'm seeing when I go to play in bars or when I go out to see other bands in bars or just a local venue is that a lot of these venues are really phoning it in. Now, I know that's going to sound really harsh, but a lot of times what is happening is the staff that they've hired just don't care. And when you do that, you leave so much money on the table. There's been several gigs that I went to where I was watching and there would be an entire table full of people that are drinking and they had pitchers of beer and they were completely empty. And the waiter or the waitress or the bar staff, none of them came over to fill that drink for them. If they'd fill that up, they would make so much more money, which is kind of baffling because the more that they drink and the more that they eat, the higher the bill, which then will be higher the tip. Another thing that I'm starting to see at venues is they're just cheaping out. Like they have poor lighting, they have poor sound equipment, they don't have a sound person, so the band's running the sound. And also, they don't want to spend money on a quality band a lot of times because why would you pay $1,500 for a quality band when you can pay a band full of random dads $300? And in their mind, they're going to get the same quality. But that's just not how it works out. Because what happens is, as a consumer, you're going out to these venues and you want to see a great band. So you go and you realize the production is not very good. So you're probably not going to want to come back to that. But also, if you're going out just to see a band, if you go to a venue and they're spending $300, well, you're going to get a $300 band. Now, there are exceptions. There are startup bands that are really, really good, that are hungry, that will play for that. But generally, when you get a $300 band, you're getting a $300 band. And so venues are going to keep booking those bands because they can get them. And what happens? That's not a quality band, and that's not going to bring repeat customers. They're not going to want to come back just for the music. While you're paying more for a band that's more expensive than a lower tiered band, oftentimes that more expensive band is going to make your venue look better, which is going to get repeat customers. But not only that, there's a band in my area that was charging double what my band was charging, and we played the same venue. And I knew the staff, so when I asked how much they earned versus how much we earned, they earned probably $400 or $500 more than we did, which doesn't sound like that much. But if you factor in how much the band was paid versus how much we were paid, at the end of the day, the venue earned $500 more, even though they paid the other band way more than us. Another thing that I see in common with these venues that close down is oftentimes they blame the bands and the musicians. Now, in reality, it's a partnership. It's both sides. So the band needs to do their due diligence and make sure they're advertising the event. They need to actually make sure they're prepared for the shows, and they need to push that event as much as they can. Now, a band's going to have their own fans, but if a venue doesn't have any draw of their own, they're not going to be successful. If the band is the only reason that anybody's going to come to this venue, then it's going to be set up to fail. Let's say that you own a bar or a venue. What's the draw that makes people come out to your place? What's going to stop them from going to the grocery store or the local liquor store and picking up alcohol there? Because it's a lot cheaper. And I would say the biggest draw is atmosphere. Now, this is probably the biggest reason why live music is failing. And quite frankly, it's the garbage economy. The greed of a few have really affected the mass majority of people. We just don't have, as a whole, the disposable income to be wasting on events like going out and watching a band. Let's look at something that everybody has to have. We all need a place to live, whether you're renting or buying a home. Let's look at the actual numbers of what it was like in the 70s and 80s versus today. The average house in the 80s was $47,000. Now you're going to say, but wait, we got paid a lot less. And that is 100% true. Minimum wage back then was, let me check my notes, $310, holy smokes, $3.10 an hour. Now that sounds like it's not very much, but now look at today. The average house right now is $410,000. The average house went from 47 to 410. The wage for minimum wage went from $3.10 to $7.25. You see, the numbers just don't add up. So the cost of a home went up 722%. The amount that you get paid with minimum wage now went up 122%. That's an insane difference. And that relates all the way down to even if you're renting. Now, add on that 7 or 8% interest rate, that is really hard to pay. You're looking at double, even triple payment per month on a mortgage for the same exact house. And is it worth that much? Absolutely not. But what happens now is the cost of everything is so much more expensive that the people that would go out and consume live music can't afford to go out anymore. And it's not just the United States. Like, people want to blame Biden and people want to blame Trump, but these are not the leaders of the rest of the world. The UK is having the same problems. All around the world is having the same problems, and it all stems from corporate greed. All right, so let's get away from politics. Politics is polarizing. Let's point fingers at everybody. But really, at the end of the day, I love live music. I love going to see live music. But we need a reason to spend our hard-earned money that, quite frankly, we just don't have as much of anymore, to go see a band, to get in our car, to spend more, to go to a venue. We need great service. We need a great band, and we just want to have fun, but we just don't have the disposable income. So is it going to get worse? I think so. But there's always going to be exceptions. There's always going to be those bands that always have huge draws. And there's always going to be a Taylor Swift who's breaking records. But for most local musicians, this is where we're at, and this is where we're hurting. And a lot of the venues are hurting for the same reason. A lot of those venues have to spend more money just to stay in operation, and that's hurting them too. I hope that something changes in the future, but until then, make sure to support your local live music venues that are really going a step above, the ones that are paying the musicians well, the ones that give you that great atmosphere, and make sure that you definitely tip well if you're giving great service, because those are the places that we want to keep open. I would love to hear your guys' feedback on what you're seeing in your neck of the woods. Are you seeing music venues starting to close down? Are you seeing bars closing down that have been open for years? Are you seeing a decline in people coming out to watch live music? Let me know. I would love to open a discussion about it.